The Peralta School community is honored to extend this welcome to our partners committed to providing the best possible educational opportunities for our children. We also send our good thoughts to Superintendent Sheila Jordan, who recently lost her father and who's not here today. I'd like to introduce the staff members that are available today for the conference. Susan Killebrew is our EEIP teacher. Anna Tomas is a 5th grade teacher. Helen Keels is a CDC teacher. Jesse Garcia is a cafeteria supervisor. Helen Richardson holds down the main office. Mr. Paul Andrews, with his Obama hat back there, keeps this place sparkling clean. First of all, we believe the path to democracy does lead right up to the front doors of our public schools. While proposed cuts will erode opportunities for our children, these cuts will also erode the foundation of our democracy. No one escapes the harm and neglect to children that slashing educational funds will only enhance. Conditions in California schools are already unacceptable. How can education cuts even be under consideration? I really wonder if those who support these eviscerating budget cuts have their children in public schools threatened by large classes, low staff morale, shrinking pools of teachers, inadequate books, materials, supplies, no field trips, no PE, no art, no music teachers, no copy machines, no substitute teachers, no nurses, inadequate custodial support, no opportunity for long-term budget planning. This is only a short list. The urgency of doing right by our children is now. No cuts. I recall years ago, Senator Peralta spoke here about his life as a teacher and how he had to moonlight, and forgive me, it was either at the Coliseum or San Francisco, to enhance his teacher's salary. Clearly, Senator Peralta knows firsthand how poorly our teachers and school staff are compensated. Let's figure out strategies to support our schools and those who come to work every day living classrooms first. I'd also like to take this opportunity to segue into Senator Don Peralta.
Come on, I always have to follow the good speakers. We have behind us today the people who are really this fight's about, and this is a fight. It's about the educational future of California. We've had more rhetoric applied to education and what we should be doing about it, and there have been more obituaries written about what we haven't done about it. So let me just say very clearly where we are as a Senate Democratic caucus, and I have a number of my colleagues here who will speak to you in a moment. But we are committed not to make any cuts in education, none. What that means simply is that it's not a line in the sand. It's not a threat. One columnist said that sounds very ominous, which is a fancy word for a threat. We're not making any threats at all. We're looking at what the governor has offered, and that is a almost $5 billion cut to education. Practically what that means for a school like Peralta is that $24,000 will be taken out of every single classroom. Statewide, 8,000 teachers will be cashiered. They'll be dismissed, which is a great incentive for young people to enter the educational field. It also means that all the after-school programs, the sports programs, the music, things that people call non-essential academic programs will be wasted. Now, it's hard to say that California, as the sixth largest economy in the world, which we always brag on, is going to move down the path of having a second-rate educational system. That we're going to have to import workers from Southeast Asia to come to California to go to places like Intel or Oracle that we in a biotech industry, California's got a great biotech industry. It's a great program for young people that can move up through the ranks, except we don't have anybody qualified to do those jobs. So either we are going to say California is going to be different than it is today, or it's going to get worse. And we're committed to stay in Sacramento as long as we have to, this summer, this fall, in order to get a budget that protects education. These kids are not responsible for the crisis that we're in, and we're not going to make them pay for it to get out of it. It's that simple. So what does that all mean in practical terms? We have a $7 billion deficit. The number doesn't really matter. People, I don't know $7 billion from $8 billion. I do know that we have to balance. I also know that the Republican government in Washington owes us so much money that if they were to pay us half of what they owe us, we would have a $25 billion surplus in California. So we are not only subsidizing everything else, we're subsidizing the war in Iraq. We spend more over there a month than we spend in education an entire year. So this is all interrelated. You can't have it both ways. What we're going to propose is we're going to make cuts. We're going to make cuts in services that are not essential. That is, they don't affect the classroom. They don't affect children. They're not going to affect the elderly. They're not going to affect persons with disabilities. That's why we have government, to help people like that. That's why we're in business. That's why we went to Sacramento. None of us in my caucus went up there to savage education. And the question about where do kids go to school of the leaders is a very fair question. But even if they have their kids in private schools, this entire state depends upon representative leadership. So we're going to make some cuts, but be clear about one thing. Without new revenues, without new taxes, we cannot solve this problem. Governor Schwarzenegger, when he first got to office, repealed the car tax in California. It's $6 billion was given back to Californians. I'm not going to fight that fight now. But if you have a deficit of $7 billion and you gave back $6 billion, there's a correlation there. Even with my meager math skills, I can figure out what that means. So people say, well, you want to put back the car tax. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put every single thing on the table. And they're going to be like flashcards. Republicans can say this. How about this? No? Okay, what about this one? We're going to go down the line until we find a compromise. This is not a Democrat or Republican problem. These kids are politically neutral. Their education is not partisan. It is nonpartisan. But Republicans right now are who are standing in the way of this state getting out of the mire that it's in, standing tall, being a leader in the country. I want us to be leaders in our neighborhoods, in our own schools. So what we're going to say to Republicans is that we're going to make the cuts that you never thought we would make. We are going to provide every opportunity for you to look at what we think we can do, and then we're going to look you in the eye and say, what are you going to do? And we're organizing, we're going all over the state of California, Democratic districts, Republican districts. We are going to try to we have to take the fight to the community. We want to enlist parents, and I know parents are busy. By definition, parent means you're busy, and you don't have any extra time. But we're going to do that. We're going to call on everybody. But I don't want people marching on Sacramento. It's a waste of time. It's like going to Disneyland. That's not a world that anybody can look at and think is real. We want to go to the district offices of members. We want to go to the boardrooms of business. We want parents to make appointments with CEOs and talk to them. Why aren't you engaged in this fight? If public education is so important to your industry, if you're complaining that you can't get people in California to work in your businesses, why aren't you fighting with us? Those are the people that have to become engaged. I'm ready to vote. So are anybody else in my caucus, and I dare say everybody, Democrat in the Assembly, is ready to do the same thing. But we're going to spend our time making sure that other people know what the problem is. And the best messengers are these children and their parents. So as long as the fight takes, we're going to take it. If I've told everybody it's a Democrat, TiVo, the Democratic Convention, that's the closest you're going to get to it. I've told my Republican colleagues, if you're planning on going to the World Series somewhere, don't. We may be here until my term ends. That's fine. We will stay here as long as we have to. But this is a fight for the future of these children. These are real people here. We're not talking rhetorically. These are real kids. But California's got to get engaged, and I would like to put every CEO on notice that there's going to expect a visit. Expect a visit from the consumers that you provide your services to, because that's what this is really about. Now, I'd like to call up now a man that most people know. He's also a teacher. He's also taught PE when there was PE. And Tom Torlakson, who's from Contra Costa County, who's been a leader in education for as long as I've known him. Tom?
Thank you, Don. The bell was right on time. And we're right on to be here. I'm proud to be here at Peralta, proud of your dynamic, inspiring principal and the team of wonderful teachers, professionals, caring about kids, and proud to be with Don, the teacher. Our leader has started his profession here, his career, and has taken us around the state to link arms with the teachers, with the parents, with these youngsters, with the high hopes we all have for our youth in California. And so I am here to say we're going to fight together. This is crazy. These cuts are not just illogical. They are devastating. They're going to set the state backwards. When we started teaching, Don Peralta and I and others here who are in the legislature know what it is like to be teachers at either the K-12 or at the college level. But when we were starting that teaching back in the 70s, and I did some teaching down at Oakland Tech just down the street, we were given our own high hopes by seeing the dreams of youngsters and the inspiring efforts of the teachers are already there. And we were at that time in the early 70s ranked in the top of the nation in our quality of schools, and the education we were delivering, and the support we were giving the youngsters of our state for their dreams. And no coincidence, we were also the top in the nation in the per pupil spending. It's a travesty, it's a disgrace that we've fallen from top in the nation to 47th in the nation in per pupil spending. There is a correlation between the money we're willing to invest, the taxes we collect and invest and return to education, and the results of that education. And so we've let California slip, and as your principal said, it's a threat to democracy, it's a threat to our economy, but most of all, it's a threat to the high hopes of these children who have big dreams, and the parents who have big dreams for their children. These cuts won't heal. These cuts that are proposed by the governor will last a lifetime. We will not tolerate that. We will work together, stand behind our leader, Senator Peralta, and link arms, as Senator Peralta has said. Let's go to everywhere in California, to the schools, to the parents, and link arms. So I've asking all the good parents here, and we talked and heard their message earlier. They're upset to anger. They are furious at these proposed cuts when they've worked so hard to bring other improvements to these schools. And so we will channel that anger together and channel our high hopes together and high expectations and turn things around and stand, as Senator Peralta said, stand for the children of California, linking arms together. Thank you very much. Another great leader in education, our friend from this region, knows the Bay Area and knows schools very well, Senator Ellen Corbett.
Thank you very much, Senator Torlakson, and thank you very much, Senator Peralta, and thank you to all of you who are here today, but especially to you students who we say you are our future, but you are clearly our today. You are our advocates that are here today, bravely standing with us to send the message out not only across the Bay Area, but across the state of California, that the budget cuts that have been proposed are absolutely wrong. How can anyone walk onto this campus and see the nurturing environment and see the happy faces of these children and not know automatically that these budget cuts are really outrageous? What's important to these young people is that we show them today that we love them and that we care about them. And that's why we're all here. We shouldn't be in a race to the bottom. It's old history that we don't spend enough in the classrooms. The new history should be that we should all be speaking in broad terms about how important it is that we have a California, that we have a vision for our California, the California that we all know it can be. We talk about our ranking as the 6th largest economy. Well, then why can't we have the best school system in the country? Why don't we have people lining up and being on waiting lists to get into our schools and making sure we have the finest to offer? That's why I'm here today. I'm extremely committed. I will do what it takes. I will be there all summer long. I know some people are very concerned about the budget being passed on time, but please know we are not in Sacramento to compromise this year. We are to fight as long as it takes to make sure that we don't balance this budget on the future of these children that are standing with us today. And I think it's also extremely important that every single one of you who has a friend in a district represented by a senator or an assembly member that has not already stated that they are going to fight against these cuts, you contact them right now. We're lucky here in the Bay Area that we have senators and assembly members that are all ready for this fight, but we need 2/3 of all of the assembly members and senators to pass this budget that should be passed. So all of you who have networks and families in other parts of the state, send out the message. We are not going to make these cuts and hurt these children. Thank you very much. It is my honor to introduce another wonderful leader for education, a very powerful and passionate person herself. You will hear this in just a moment. Our majority leader in the state Senate, Senator Gloria Romero.
Good morning. Let me just ask if there is Spanish-speaking press. Okay, then I'll deliver it in English. I'm from East Los Angeles. You might ask, why am I here? Because we are the Golden State, and we are all in this together. I am very proud to join with my colleagues here in the Bay Area to fight for public education. Make no doubt about it, education is the civil rights issue of our time. This is the fight for equal access. This is the fight for the American dream. With education, we know we go forward. We have never heard about with education, we go backward. And so from the community that I represent in East Los Angeles, from the senators who represent South Central Los Angeles, joining with Senators Peralta and Torlakson and Corbett here, we know that the challenge for this generation and for this state is to continue to invest in going forward. Let me just acknowledge that we are, in terms of education funding, in the basement nationally. We don't have much to be proud of looking at being funded at 47th nationally. We have a long way to go. So this is not the time to look for almost $5 billion in cuts. In addition to being an educator, I chair the Public Safety Committee. So I deal with prisons quite a bit. If we do not educate, we will incarcerate. 70% of the inmates in California prisons today do not have a high school diploma. And when we talk about values, they always say, follow the money, because the budget is the single most important policy document which points to the values of the people of California. Today in California, and I'm being generous in rounding up, we spend on average $10,000 a year to educate a child. $10,000. But do you know how much we spend to incarcerate that same youthful offender in the California juvenile justice system? $178,000 to incarcerate. So it's up to us to make the choice. Either we educate at a bargain, or we incarcerate blindly. I am proud to stand with you. The governor always says, take it to the people. Well, Mr. Governor, look around the state. We are the people, and we will fight on. It is now my honor to introduce the superintendent of Alameda Unified School District, Ardella Daly.
Actually, what I wanted to share is what happened with our students in Alameda Unified School District. Our district is looking at $4.4 million to cut. In order to do that, one of the things that went up is athletics for our students. They came forward and they talked about how we are taking their future, how we are eliminating their choices, how we are making education not be about them as students in the future of our country and our state, but be a dumping ground. I totally agree with what they had to say. I support the fact that education at this point is in supreme jeopardy. And I want this state to stand up and say, no way, no how, we're not taking our children's future. Actually, I have the proud ability to introduce Jim Manheimer, a parent and leader, and actually a former principal in my district. Jim Manheimer.
As Ms. Daly said, I was a public educator for 18 years, a school teacher and teacher leader in Martinez, and then an administrator for 3 years in Danville and 4 years in Alameda. And I'm now a parent of a kindergartner and second grader here. And these cuts are outrageous. As you've heard many times, California, in spite of our amazing wealth, ranks 47th in the country in per capita allocation for students. That is a tragedy. That is a travesty. And now we're talking about chopping $800 per ADA per child from that. It's a system that's under incredible stress. Anybody who works in this system has a job description that's impossible, is trying to provide a future for kids who come from in some cases, very, very difficult situations. And it's an amazing feat that we're trying to pull off, and underfunded as it is, under a lot of stress. And to further complicate this with an additional cut is just outrageous. And one of the things that I know is that when teachers and administrators and staff are under this kind of stress, the attrition rate is huge, and the availability of good talent is declining. If you look at the applicant pools for secondary schools, it's really difficult to get good administrators because it's such a stressful job at this point. The cuts that will happen, we've been down this road before. Unfortunately, many times there are no good, easy choices left. Every cut will diminish the quality of education in California, which is already not what any of us would like it to be. Those that work in the system know all too well that we're not providing the services that we know we could, know we should. Parents in the system know the extra work that we've got to do just to get minimal education for our kids. So nothing good is going to come out of this. Every cut, even somebody who is a maintenance worker, support staff, they support kids. They provide the services that are needed to run this establishment. So hopefully all of us will fight really hard to fight these cuts. The other thing I want to speak briefly about is this process. This process where the governor gives a proposed budget with big cuts to education, and then all of us rally really hard to fight those cuts. And it's wonderful to see this group out here and to see all the support for public education. But this is a frustrating, detrimental process. All of us who are in education today are not doing our jobs as educators. We're not in the classroom teaching. We're not administering our schools. We're not doing those sorts of things. The conflict that's created within communities, pitting one faction. Should we save sports? Should we save school nurses? Should we save high school counselors? That pits factions of the community and of the district against each other. Kids feel that stress. Teachers feel that stress. And there are poor young teachers who are getting pink slips, often the most enthusiastic, hardest working folks we really want to retain and encourage, are getting pink slips. This is an easy profession to leave. There are easier ways to make a living. You give somebody the incentive of a young teacher who's worked really, really hard. Of a pink slip, you may not be hired back, or you may not know where you're going to be hired, or you may not be hired on until August. It makes it easy for them to walk away. So I think in California, we need to take a good, hard look at how we fund education and our budgeting process. And I strongly think we need to uphold Prop 98, create a sustainable, balanced budget, and look hard at how we spend our money and also how we tax ourselves. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of presenting Kathy Reeves, the former PPTG co-chair here at Peralta.
Thank you, Jim. To our senators and all of you that are present, I don't need to give you the politically correct talk with the big words or anything like that. But as a parent of a Peralta student, I can only say this: the cuts are ridiculous. Our schools right now here in Oakland, we are already under state administration. And our state administrator was here. And the thing is that he is against what's going on. We here in the city of Oakland already are losing students behind cuts that they have no alternative. The schools cannot lose anything else. You talk about obesity in the schools, but then when you don't have the money, what happens? There's no PE. When you talk about all of the food the children are not eating at home, they come to school to have a breakfast or a lunch, but then you want to cut all of these things from them. Our children here work hard. They want to be somebody. They want to be the next governor. They want to be the next senator. They want to run for president. But they can't do it when you don't give them the education. All of our children now, if you increase the class sizes, what will happen to the children? They will end up being discouraged and drop out of school. And as the senator said, our prisons become full with children because they don't have an education. There are parents that are low incomes. There are parents that are migrant families that come to school. They want to learn. But when you cut the money, you cut them. We can't afford to stand by and let the governor do what he is doing now. We need to stand up as the people of this great state. When you have a city that is filing bankruptcy, when you have a governor that wants to give money for 2 bus lines, but they want to cut education. What is wrong with this picture? I'm asking everybody to stand up and be accounted for. Tell them we will not stand by and see our children suffer, not these babies, because the buck stops here, ladies and gentlemen. When you look at it, K through 5 is where it all begins. Once you pass here, then what do? All of those kids in high school, junior high, middle school, and college, what happens to them? They don't go because they didn't get the education right here. So it starts right here. So parents, stand up, be a part. Governor Schwarzenegger, you said you were the education governor, but guess what? You aren't. We are going to make a move that this will not happen. Not here, not now, no possible chance. Thank you. I have the privilege of introducing 2 of our students, Kiera Reeves and Nathan Zabala.
To Senator Peralta and other officials, my name is Kiera Reeves, and I am a 4th grade student here at Peralta Elementary School. What the governor wants to do is wrong. We here in Oakland have already lost so many things that many of you had, like sports, music, and arts. Class sizes were cut back to help us get a better education, and so the teachers could help us more. Now you want to backpedal and increase class sizes, cut teachers, counselors, and staff, which will cause our schools to close and we will end up with more kids in the class? That is unacceptable. How do you expect us to learn? Make your budget cuts somewhere else. Our education is the most important thing to us. If you cut into our education, then you're asking for more trouble. If a child has no education, then they end up doing other things which will cause you to want to build more prisons. Use your head. This is not a place to cut. Cut into your pocket and somewhere else. Don't hurt us. Don't hurt us and cut our money. Thank you.
My name is Nathan Zabala, and I'm a 5th grader at Peralta Elementary School. And if they cut budgets when me and my class move to middle school, there aren't going to be, most of them aren't going to be as fortunate as Peralta. So the budget cuts are going to affect education for all the schools of California. Yeah. I should have got screwed.
That's great.
Yay! My mom told me yesterday.
You did fine.
That's good, sweetheart.
Thank you very much, both of you. And I can see that Kira's acorn didn't fall far from the tree, did it? Well, no one says it better than the parents and the teachers, and especially the children. What I'm going to ask every parent here to do, and in fact, anybody here, we have cards that we're going to ask you to sign up to give us some information. What we are going to do is put you into a network of other parents, teachers, students, statewide. And we're going to be asking you to do some very specific things at specific times in specific places. And we're going to put your face against those people who need to be engaged in this fight. I promise you no junk mail. We won't spam you. No political mail, which is also junk mail. But I do ask that you give us your personal information. If you don't have access to an email address, that's fine. We should use the old-fashioned method. But we're going to take this fight all the way around the state, and we're going to do it with tens of thousands of individuals like those of you who are here today. My pledge is that we will not let you down. Democrats will not let you down. Thank you all for being here. Good job.